It's a huge maze with a group of people trapped in the center. There's grass and trees, but no modern technology, and it's surrounded by extremely high fences. And on this day our protagonist Thomas is sent here, surrounded by a group of boys. He discovered that he was enclosed by 4 immensely high walls. To make matters worse, he had lost all his memories. According to Albie, the leader of the group, every boy here couldn't remember a thing. They were sent here one by one, forced to live like savages from that point on. Albie, being the first to arrive, had been stuck here for at least 3 years. Despite the lengthy introduction, Albie never got to the point, what lay beyond the door? He only uttered a single phrase, never go out there. Soon, Thomas noticed 2 boys running in from the door. A chubby kid beside him explained that they were runners, the only ones allowed to venture outside. Thomas, with his adventurous spirit, decided to take a closer look by himself. Unexpectedly, another person shoved him away. Thomas was puzzled. Why wasn't he allowed to go in? And why wouldn't anyone explain what was inside? Suddenly, a thunderous noise echoed through the air. The colossal doors of the maze slowly began to close. The inside looked eerie and terrifying. Who knew what fate awaited those trapped within? That night, Thomas heard the thundering sounds from the maze once more. Another boy named Newt explained that the maze was changing. No one had ever survived a night inside because a type of monster appeared after dark. Anyone who had seen them ended up dead. Early the next morning, Albie brought Thomas to the wall. Thomas noticed names scribbled all over it, with some crossed out. It was evident that those crossed out had perished. Thomas carved his own name into the wall. Shortly after, a strange incident occurred. While in the forest, Thomas suddenly spotted a person, one of the runners. The runner's eyes were pitch black, his face deathly pale. He lunged at Thomas like a rabid dog, screaming, "This is all your fault." He nearly strangled Thomas to death, but Thomas managed to fight him off and escape. He ran to the others, and they quickly restrained the crazed runner. Lifting his shirt, they saw a horrifying wound. It turned out that this person had been injured by the monster, causing him to become violent and lose his mind. He would soon turn into a walking corpse. They had no choice but to forcefully bring him to the entrance of the maze, leaving him to fend for himself. As the maze began to close, the boys combined their strength to push him through. No matter how much he pleaded, they showed no mercy. No one wanted to live alongside a madman. On the 3rd day, with one less runner, Albie had to venture into the maze himself to explore. However, another unexpected event occurred. Until the doors were about to close, they still hadn't returned. Thomas asked if they could go look for them, but everyone said no. The doors had already started to shut. The 2 were undoubtedly doomed. Just then, the group suddenly spotted their silhouettes, but Albie seemed to be in trouble. Miho, beside him, refused to abandon Albie, desperately carrying him back. No one dared to go in and help. They could only shout, "Hurry up." In the final moments before the doors closed, Thomas couldn't stand by anymore. He made a decision that no one else dared to make. He rushed in to help the 2. Miho smiled bitterly, saying, "What you're doing now is no different from suicide. No one has ever survived a night in the maze." Soon, mysterious howls rang out. Albie was unconscious. Thomas came up with a plan. Using vines, he suspended Albie in midair. But at that moment, the monster arrived. Miho was terrified and took off running. Thomas couldn't hold on alone and had no choice but to hide within the vines, waiting for the monster to leave. He quickly tied the vines securely. Suddenly, a strange slime dripped onto his shoulder. The monster was right above his head. Thomas ran with all his might, climbing up the vines. There was no path ahead. He could only jump with great effort, grabbing onto the vines to continue climbing. The monster followed, but got tangled in the vines. Thomas had a moment to catch his breath. He reunited with Miho. The maze began to shift. They ran towards a slowly closing giant wall. Miho made it through, but Thomas suddenly stopped. Miho was puzzled. Then, he saw Thomas taunting the monster before sprinting away. It turned out he was trying to lure the monster into the wall to crush it. He and the monster raced through the increasingly narrow wall. Could he win? Dawn broke, and the maze doors opened. Everyone gathered at the entrance. Miho and Thomas returned with Albie. The group was astonished. "Didn't you encounter the monster?" Miho said they did, but he killed it. This should have been a joyous occasion, but Gally said it was precisely Thomas's arrival that disrupted the peace here. Just then, the iron cage outside began to rattle. They ran out to look. The cage opened, and this time, it was a girl. She had a piece of paper on her, stating that no one else would be coming. Later, Thomas led a group into the maze. They found the monster's corpse and discovered a mysterious device on it. Miho brought Thomas to a room, where a map of the maze was kept. It turned out that over the past 3 years, Miho had run through every corner of the maze. He hadn't found an exit, but he discovered the maze had 8 sections, each labeled with a number. The device had the number 7 written on it. This was likely the key to the door in section 7. The woman woke up. Thomas found her and told her, "I've been dreaming about a woman who looks a lot like you recently." This pickup line was truly cliché, but Thomas continued, "I think I dreamt that we were doing some kind of experiment." The woman seemed to fall for it. She took something out of her pocket to show Thomas. It was 2 vials of a drug. The woman also didn't know what they were for because she too had lost her memory. Thomas suddenly remembered that Albie was currently poisoned. Could this be the antidote? They went to Albie. He had already started to go mad. The woman decisively injected the drug. Instantly, Albie calmed down. The next day, Thomas and Miho took the device to find the exit. They ran the entire way, passing through sections 4, 5, and 6. Finally, they reached section 7. Here, there were many gigantic stone walls. As soon as they entered section 7, the device emitted a sound. Following the directions, they arrived at a passageway. Then, they used the device to open a door, leading to a tunnel. Before they could see clearly what was inside, a sudden red laser scanned across. Then, a thunderous noise followed. It was the sound of the door about to close. Could they still safely make it out?